Hello, YouTube. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. Sorry, I got a picture in here. Let me get this out of the way. Oops, that's not what I want to do. I want to get rid of that. There I am. Okay, so this is an actual live Q&A. I have been continuing to stream live. I've been creating long playlists which I put into a loop, so that way there's always something on the channel, hopefully for you to watch. And I'm finding that, there's so much, hours and hours and hours of question and answers that a lot of people haven't seen. Again, I keep telling people to binge watch the channel. And there's still a lot of people who haven't seen some of the most viewed videos that I have. So this is another way for people to be able to see them. Like if you want to just like today, I'm going to make a marathon about the dangers of cult religion and specifically Christianity. So there's going to be something like 7 or 8 hours of that. And I haven't even scratched the surface on everything I have, but that'll be later today and tonight for those who want to watch it or have nothing better to do. So today I want to talk to you about how to communicate, and more specifically how to learn from beings of a higher vibration, beings of light, the gods, the ancestors. I don't really care what word you want to use. And this has, as you know, if you followed my channel, I've done a lot of stuff. I've done a lot of high level, esoteric, mystical things. I've achieved all kinds of states energetically and spiritually. I've gone all kinds of different places. And, now that I've done all of that, and what I want now more than anything else is to be happy and comfortable in my life. And I've found that a lot of the things that I sought after, and I think a lot of things other people seek after in spirituality, ultimately becomes a dead end and does not end up making you happy. I've had teachers who were very powerful and were more powerful than me in all kinds of ways, and they were also miserable. They were also, quite unhappy, quite immature, and abusive. But they had all kinds of power. They had all kinds of spiritual knowledge, and they had all kinds of spiritual experiences, and they could do all kinds of crazy things. And, if you're like me, when I was going after all that stuff, I had the belief that if I could achieve those states of being, if I could achieve that same level of power, that I would be happy, that I would be free. The idea of achieving enlightenment or moksha, or in the Taoist tradition, becoming a perfected immortal. All of that sounded very, very pleasant to me, and the thought of being free from the limitations and the confines of three-dimensional reality and all of the things associated with it. I thought if I could achieve those things, then I would be happy. Of course, that wasn't my conscious thought. My conscious thought was that I wanted power. My conscious thought was that I wanted to have an experience, because, these things that I experience and these things that I teach can be very pleasant. The sensation of that power can be very pleasant. And so that's what kept me going, because it felt good. I enjoyed it. But when I finally met my teacher's teacher, who had achieved something that I thought I wanted, which was if you do these certain practices and you perfect them, then you exit your body, and then you come back into your body, and you have basically superpowers, and you have all that kind of stuff. And I wanted that, and I really believed that if I could achieve that, that I would achieve a level of wisdom and maturity and happiness and freedom, enlightenment. That's what I thought was there. Now, I had my teacher that I was working with, and he was very powerful, but his human limitations were quite obvious. He was not the most conscious person in the world. I mean, he was, I have a lot of gratitude for him, because when things were going well between us, he was actually, a very generous teacher. But I could see his limitations. And I really wanted, on a selfish note, I really wanted his teacher's power, because I had heard all these stories about his teacher, and I had assumed that, I had this idea of who his teacher would be, what he would be like. And then I met him, and all of the limitations that my teacher had, this guy had, and even worse. But he had a lot more power, and it really shocked me. Because I thought, oh my gosh, this guy's supposed to, he should be enlightened, and he wasn't. He wasn't a very happy person. He was a very insecure person. He was a bully. And, it really disillusioned me about all of it. And it made me angry with the universe. Like, well, why would the universe give this guy this power and not me? I deserve it more than he does. And that was, that was sad for me. Now, I have since had a lot more experiences and a lot more communications with the gods and the ancestors and the spirit beings and all kinds of things. And again, now since that, my thought process is always, does it make my life better? So for me, something isn't spiritual. I don't give it the term spiritual unless it makes my life better. Something that has non-physical power, supernatural power, isn't necessarily spiritual. It's just another part of our reality. We mistake spirituality for supernatural, and they're not the same. Supernatural means beyond the natural, and the natural is really just what we can perceive. We can touch, see, hear, and feel. So we think, understandably, that's all that exists. But there are things super, beyond. That's Latin, means above, beyond. Beyond what we can perceive is just the supernatural. There is nothing more or less spiritual about things that you can't see. There's a whole spectrum of light that we can't see. We can't see infrared and other kinds of colors. We can't see them. Just like, dogs and cats, I think, can only see black and white. Doesn't mean that there aren't other colors, they just can't see them. And you try, if you were to try to explain to somebody who's been colorblind from birth, who can only see black and white, if you were to try to explain to them colors they can't see, they wouldn't be able to have any frame of reference to imagine them. So we can't imagine what it's like outside of what we can see. But it doesn't mean that it's not part of the natural world. And so if it's part of the natural world, then it has the potential to be limited by three-dimensional reality. Even four-dimensional, five-dimensional reality. I mean, it can still be limited. And it can be a dead end. So I want to talk to you about what you can do to be able to communicate with higher beings. So the first thing that you need to understand is that higher beings are to us as we would be to beings that only exist in two dimensions. For a being that exists in two dimensions and doesn't see a third dimension, then we would look like we could do things that they couldn't understand. And we could mess with them in ways that they couldn't comprehend. And we would have powers and abilities that they couldn't comprehend. And it's only because they can't see what's happening outside of their two-dimensional reality. And so the same is true for beings of light. This has to do, again, with even people that we know that have passed on. Your ancestors. You do have ancestors that are with you and guiding you, and you do have guides, and there are spirits and beings that are um, following you and guiding you in ways you can't see. Just like, two-dimensional beings on two dimensions can't even see what we would be doing in three dimensions. It doesn't mean that it's not natural again, it's just they can't see it. We can't see what they're doing. From our perspective, beings, higher beings, or lower beings for that matter, just beings that are not stuck in our three-dimensional reality, they can do things that we can't understand. They can seemingly jump through time. They can seemingly do magical things, make things appear and disappear. And they can create synchronicities in our life that we wonder, how did that happen? And you can see this if you have a daily practice. Like if you have a daily practice with a deity, or with even with your ancestors. If you talk to your ancestors and ask for their guidance, and you get specific about things that you want to see, questions that you have, things will start to happen that you can't understand how they can do that. I've shared with you a couple of things that have been happening with me that I know are, my soulmate, who's no longer with us on this plane. She's still around. I can't see or understand what she's doing, but I can see little evidences that, yep, there's somebody here doing something that I can't really put my finger on. And I'm talking about more than just, sounds or things like that. I mean, things that just like, that's just too coincidental. So the first thing that you need to understand is that they function on a completely different plane that you can't understand. So stop trying to physically understand it. The other thing is, stop trying to force them to communicate on your level. Same example, my fiance passed away, and I was absolutely certain, because of the closeness that we had, that she was going to communicate to me in dreams and in other ways, and that I would continue to have this same kind of verbal dialogue connection with her, even an emotional connection. And it did. She was gone. When she died, I didn't see her, I didn't feel her, there was no communications coming in my dreams, nothing. The only communication that I got in the beginning was that she was watching. That was it. And since then, it's been now a couple of years, I've come to realize that she's here. She is interacting, communicating with me, and having an influence on my life in ways I can't possibly understand, and I'm not supposed to understand. And so that's the first thing. Don't try and get them to communicate with you the way that you want. A lot of people take a lot of meaning when their phone or their clock, has 111. These kinds of things. And they'll go, what does that mean? I'm seeing these numbers everywhere. What does that mean? And I say, it means that your clock, your phone will hit 111 twice a day, every day. And chances are you will see that. 111, 222, 333, 444, 555, 6. Well, and you can't have 666. And then if you're not using the 12-hour, you're using the 24-hour, then it can be 11:11, 21:21, 22:22. These kinds of things will, you'll keep seeing these things if you're looking for that. I suppose it's possible that something could communicate that way, but what we're talking about now is us projecting. So what I've experienced, this isn't a hard and fast rule, so don't try and take this as a hard and fast rule, but in my experience, when people believe they're getting like dialogue, like they're talking back and forth, in a normal human dialogue with something, in my experience, that's just them communicating with themselves. Nothing wrong with that. You can communicate with your lower self and learn all kinds of things. But most of the time, it's your fantasy, your fears especially. People who, people who are constantly having like you hear voices. That's not a good sign. That's not a sign that you're communicating with a higher being. It means that you're having a dialogue with your own unconsciousness, your own fear. If it is a spirit, there is a chance, it's not guaranteed, so don't get me wrong, but there is a chance that if it is a spirit outside of you and it's talking to you on a human level and there's a back and forth, what's your name? My name is so-and-so, what time is it? When should I do this? That could be an evil spirit, because negative spirits are still trapped in the same dimensions that you are. And so, that kind of interaction, which is good for our ego, it feeds our narcissism. It doesn't mean that you're having a high level interaction with a being greater than yourself or more advanced than yourself. So the main thing that you want to do to be able to learn, because here's what you need. You don't need to communicate with them. In other words, you don't need to sit down and talk to them and have them tell you A plus B equals C. That's not how they want to interact with you. First off, bear in mind that you're a human being. And human beings are spirit beings, infinite spirit beings that have avatared themselves into a three-dimensional meatbag avatar. And in order for you to interact with three dimensions, you have to have hardware and software, just like your computer. You have to have that, because without it, you wouldn't be able to be immersed in three dimensions. And so you have to have senses. You have to have eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, fingers, nerves, because those are going to be your avenues of getting information. Now, in order for us to communicate, human beings have evolved to have this means of communication, which we call speech. Thought is part of that. If you think in certain ways, that is the hardware, the brain. Speech and being able to think the way that human beings do. This is the brain. It's a computer. And so that, everybody learns different software. If you learn English or you learn Chinese or whatever, you learn a different software to communicate with other people in three dimensions. So if what you're wanting is you're wanting to have some God or some spirit sit down and have a conversation with you in verbal language, you're wanting them to interact on a three-dimensional limited plane. And from their perspective, why would I do that? That's such a limiting way. We need it because we have chosen to be limited in three dimensions, and it's fun for us. So we enjoy that. But they don't operate on that level. And so if what you're wanting is to have that kind of communication, you're setting yourself up to be deceived by your own lower self and perhaps by any other entity. So that's the first thing. First thing you want to do is not want to force them to communicate on your level. Second thing is you have to check yourself to see how desperate you are. If you are desperate to have a communication or a relationship with a non-physical being, that is a danger sign. That is coming from your pain. That is coming from your unresolved issues. And people seek out companionship, because that's what you want. You want love and companionship. This is why, people wait for the aliens to come. This is why people. I'm going to tell you. This is why people take hallucinogens. They're not taking hallucinogens because they're super spiritual people. They're taking hallucinogens because they're desperate. and they are desperate and they're lonely and they need love really badly, and they want to have an experience with. They believe that if they have an experience with a non-physical being, that will make them feel loved and connected. Now that may not be their conscious thought process, but that's really what it's all about. Traditionally, the only reason you would do something like that is if you needed information very badly and you understood that you couldn't understand it in your present state. So it is a desperate thing to do, to seek out that kind of communication. So don't be desperate. Check yourself. It's okay to have feelings of desperation. It's okay to have feelings of being lonely and sad and unloved and wanting to feel that you're understood. Another one is, people feel very misunderstood. And so they believe that if they have a connection with some non-physical entity, whether it's a god or a spirit or a teacher or something like that, that they will be understood because they feel out of place here. There's this whole, there's so many things. There are people out there, this is the great thing about YouTube, is you find out all of the neuroses that people have and they spiritualize their neurosis. I've talked about the misunderstandings in the twin flame community, and the bottom line, what I've seen is people who are full blown into the twin flame phenomenon are people who have really, really, they're just incredibly dysfunctional when it comes to relationships, and they're creating a scenario where they can avoid true intimacy, avoid their true feelings, avoid their true issues, and spiritualize the perfect relationship. And it gives them the opportunity to be, really codependent and chase after somebody that doesn't love them, and then stay in denial and say, yeah, but we're connected on the higher plane. And to somehow, what I see in this is that there's this spiritualization of codependent, dysfunctional relationships. But if somebody has like a healthy relationship, that's not a twin flame. That's a karmic soulmate. And there's like this, they talk down about it. So this is a way to take spirituality and to spiritualize your dysfunction and your pain, and make excuses for yourself so you don't ever grow. You don't ever have the thing you claim you want. And the same is true with spirituality. People, escape through spirituality, and they'll do it, and wanting to get messages from the beyond. And you're talking to a shaman. So I'm somebody here who I believe in channeling information, but that's what it is. It's channeling information. It's channeling information and teachings. I don't seek out communication from other beings for my own personal enjoyment anymore. Because I've just come to realize that that's not how this works. The way the beings that we are meant to interact with and gain pleasure and fulfillment are with other people. We're supposed to be communicating with other humans. Somebody's asking if this is pre-recorded. This is not pre-recorded. This is live. So if you have a question, you can ask me. I'm here right now. How many people are watching? Let's see. Got 22 people. So, yeah, this is a question and answer, and you can ask whatever the heck you want. I may archive it and broadcast it again later, but for right now, Thursday in Australia, Thursday, April 23rd, which if you're in the States, it's Wednesday, April 22nd. This is live. So, let me share with you now. So I'm telling you what it isn't, how it doesn't work. Let me share with you how it does work. Beings of light, higher beings, gods, elves, whatever word you want to put to these higher beings, angels, I don't care what word you use. They have only one goal. That is to help you evolve. That's it. They have no other agenda with you. And because they don't have an agenda with you, they don't care whether you like it or not. They want you to be happy, but they have no need to placate you and give you what you demand. And, I learned this a long time ago. We tend to do this as humans, especially those of us, like religious people do this, is they will have temper tantrums hoping that they can guilt God or whomever into giving them what they want. One of the most common ways is to make deals, make a deal with God. If you give me this, I'll go to church every Sunday. But we do that. By the way, conspiracy theory people do this. They don't realize it. They're having a temper tantrum. Whenever people want to go off about who's doing it to them and who's, especially if they want to talk about, archons and beings of light that are wanting to make your life miserable, what they don't realize is that they are having temper tantrums trying to get the universe to feel sorry for them and give them what they want. And higher beings are not moved in the slightest. They will watch you destroy yourself and do nothing to stop it. Because from their perspective, you're choosing to do it to yourself, and that's your right. If you want to be miserable and you want to be sad and you want to be, whine and complain and you want to, do whatever it is, they're not going to stop you. So the first thing you want to do is to have an attitude of willingness. An attitude of willingness to know what you can do differently. So it's always good to be asking the question, okay, what can I learn from this? What is the lesson here? When something happens to you that seems miserable and cold and cruel and makes you very sad and you're disappointed, instead of indulging in having temper tantrums. Now, I'm not saying you can't have your feelings. It's okay for you to be sad and disappointed and frustrated and angry. It's okay to have those feelings. But understand that those feelings are just there to try and help you change the situation. But amidst all those feelings, you can go, okay, so what can I do differently here? What is the lesson? What can I do to make this, be willing to do anything? So willingness is really important. Because if, the higher beings are going to treat you the same way that a teacher is going to treat a student. I'm a teacher. I've been a teacher for quite a while. I've had teachers. And, I know, especially traditional teachers like, Eastern teachers are really good to learn from, because the attitude that you have to have with them is the same attitude that you need to have with working with beings of light. So, you walk into, things are different now because everybody's gotten more childish and everybody's become more Western. The whole world has become more westernized. And so, places where, you used to be able to predict how teachers were going to be, that's all changing because, because the reasons I just said. But let's just say we go back in time 100 years to China, and you want to go and learn, I don't care what it is, you want to learn Zen meditation from a Shaolin monk, or you want to learn martial arts from a Taoist master, or you want to learn Taoist mysticism. The way is you show up and you say, will you teach me? You have to ask. So the first thing is you have to ask. Because a teacher, first of all, can't teach you if you haven't asked. But second of all, you have to, when you ask, you're saying, I'm willing to take your instruction. Will you teach me? And so the teachers may test you. You know, the beginning of that series, you know, Kung Fu in the 70s, if you remember. Um, there's the Shaolin Temple, and there's all these either orphan kids or something like that. And they're all sitting out in the courtyard, hoping to be taken in to the temple as, you know, to be able to live and to train. And so every day the master would come out and he would look and he would tell certain children, you know, if there's 100, he would tell 20 of them, thank you, please go home. Just based on their behavior, he can tell if they're disciplined or not. And so he would just say, thank you, please go home. And then he'd say to the next people, okay, thank you, we'll see you tomorrow. So he'd come out every day and tell, okay, please go home, please go home. And what he's doing is he's trying to see if they're disciplined and if they're willing to take direction. And then the final test was, you know, he sits down with little Kwai Chang Caine and pours tea. And there's two of them there, as if I remember right. And one of them immediately grabs the tea and starts drinking it. And the monk says, thank you, please go home. And little Kwai Chang Caine is sitting there waiting, and he hasn't touched his tea. And he says, why aren't you drinking the tea? And he says, because elders go first. So now he shows that he has respect and reverence. And so that's, you know, he passed the test and he's allowed to stay. The guides, the angels, the elves, whatever, they are no different. And understand that in that example that I just gave, that, you know, the master monk who's looking for students, they want to learn. I mean, they want to teach. It is a karmic responsibility. Teachers must give their knowledge. It's a karmic responsibility. This is why, by the way, when everybody who wants to fight with me wants to, you know, criticize me, you know, at some point I will say to them, listen, you're a teacher. Go teach. Stop wasting your time arguing with me. Because the fact that they are arguing with me means that they can't stop themselves. And it usually starts with them wanting to give me some kind of instruction or correction that I haven't asked for. And I'll say, I haven't asked for your instruction. And they'll say, well, even the teacher must learn. And I'm like, yeah, but I have to ask, and I haven't asked you for anything. And if they get all their feelings hurt and they get offended, but you should listen to what I have to say, then I say, so you're a teacher. You should be teaching people who want to learn from you. Don't waste your time with me. Go make your own videos. Go write your own books. Because if you're destined to teach, you won't be able to help yourself. If you don't take the risk and put yourself out there as a teacher, then you will be filled with this angst and you will be judging everybody all the time. You'll be judging teachers all the time, but that's because you don't have the guts to teach yourself. And so you take your own criticism of yourself that you're not good enough to teach and you put it on every teacher you see. That's one of the ways that I know that I'm supposed to teach something. If I find myself wanting to troll another teacher's channel and tell them how screwed up they are, it means that I'm supposed to be teaching whatever it is that they've stimulated in me to want to talk about. So instead of trolling their channel and criticizing them, I come on here, or I write a book, or I do something else. And I put myself out there. And I say things that some people don't like, and you know, that's just part of the deal. So in order to learn from the elves, the ancestors, the guides, the angels, you've got to be willing to be instructed. And you've got to be willing to have them instruct you in ways that you don't understand or maybe you don't even like. Again, you know, so, you know, you go to China and you want to become master martial artist or something, and the teacher says, go stand in the corner on one leg. If you do anything other than immediately go and stand in the corner on one leg, they will say, thank you, there's the door. They won't waste any time. It's because they want to teach and they know what you don't. And if you don't see them as having knowledge that you need, then they can't teach you. And so that's why they seem so harsh. That's why I seem so harsh. When it comes to being my apprentice, if somebody wants to have a session with me, just a one-off, or talk to me once every couple of months or something like that, or talk to me whenever it suits them, there's a way to do that. You can go to if you go to courses.thunderwizard.com and go to the career section, go to find my perfect career and scroll to the bottom, you can purchase a session from me. Now that session is more expensive than it is to work with me as an apprentice. Apprentices only pay $108 per session, and but they're committing to the long haul. So if somebody is my apprentice and they say, I'm going to take some time off and come back, I say no. Make your decision. Do you want to be my apprentice or not? You can always, purchase a one-off session when it suits you, but you can't just leave whenever you feel like it and come back when you feel like it, because I won't be able to teach you. That means that you have to sit through your resistance of when either you feel like you're not learning anything, or I'm telling you things you don't want to hear, or having you do something you don't want to do. I have to know that you're willing to follow my direction, because I want you to learn. And if you don't, do the work, you won't learn. And then I will be wasting my time and yours. So I don't do the apprenticeship for the money. For that time, I would much rather be out surfing or, getting paid $400 to talk to somebody for an hour. If I'm working with an apprentice for $108, it means I'm investing my time in you, and there has to be an energetic exchange. So I charge the minimum that I'm willing to charge for my time. But it's really frustrating when I do that and people don't show up. And this happens a lot. People won't show up for a session, and then they'll come back with an excuse and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I got the time wrong. I'll can we reschedule?" And I say, "Yeah, but I'm going to charge you for that." And then they go, "What?" I say, "Yeah, that's my time. You paid for my time. I showed up. You didn't. That doesn't mean you get to, keep rescheduling and I just keep throwing my time away for you. It doesn't work like that." So you've got to be willing to take direction, and the next thing now we're getting to is you've got to be willing to invest. I'm talking about working with the gods and the ancestors. You've got to be willing to invest. It's got to cost you something. This is what sacrifices. This is why our ancestors used to sacrifice animals. Animals were really, really, really valuable. Like to sacrifice a goat, for instance, that would be the equivalent of us probably giving away $15,000. It would be that much, because you're out, way back then, 1,000 years ago, a goat, you could get milk from that goat, but you could eat that goat, you could get skin from that goat. Sacrifice a cow, holy crap, that's like giving your car away. It's huge. We've lost that understanding. So it has to cost you something if you really want to learn. Because when people pay me money to get whatever it is they want from me, I know they're going to follow the directions because they paid for it. Even if they think I'm full of crap, they're going to go, "Well, I paid for this, so I'm going to get my money's worth." And that way I know that they're going to, that there's a better chance that they'll learn. So this is all what you need in order to learn from the gods and the ancestors. Wanting to have them meet you on your, at your, your needs and your way is just your narcissism, your way of trying to control them. And when you start looking to control things, the only beings that you're going to have any interactions with are going to be lower level beings. And that's because they're going to be trying to control you. So, people who think that they're accomplishing something by worshiping demons or, keeping demons as they're just biding their time. Those demons are going to take it out of you in some way or other. So that coming from that doesn't work. So. What am I saying? The way to learn, if you want to learn, the way to learn is to have the attitude of, you know something and I don't. I'm talking about learning from the gods and the ancestors. You go to them and you say, show me what I need to know. Show me what will be helpful for me to know. Show me how to change my thinking. Be willing to have them take you someplace you've never been before. And then you can create a dialogue. Then they're really not interested in dialoguing with you all that much. They're really interested in helping you. They don't have a need. Like human beings, we have a need. We need to talk and be talked to. We need that interaction. The beings outside of us love us, care about us, but they don't have that same need for you to show up and talk to them. They'll be okay if you do your own thing without them. So don't expect that from them. And the way that they will want to interact with you is if you want to learn how to evolve and how to grow. So that's the main thing I want to share with you. Maybe if you thought I was going to tell you do this and do that and then you'll be able to have a direct, no. That's unnecessary. All right, so I'll see if there are any questions. This is a question and answer. If you're new to the channel, the way it works is you write the word question. And then if you have a question, write it out. It's best if you ask me a question based on what I teach or what I'm talking about. You can ask whatever you want. Bear in mind, don't get your feelings hurt if I seemingly start judging you, because what I'm doing is I'm trying to help you in as quick a time as possible, and part of that is being able to know what it is you're really asking and where your thinking is helping you or getting in the way. So I'll point that out to you if I see that. Baxter 951, I can see this as a question. In the future, write the word question so I don't miss it. The whole reason I ask people to do that is so I don't miss their question. If we got a bunch of people on here, as happens sometimes, then I have to scroll through all of the banter to get to the questions, and if I can't see it's a question, I'll miss it. Baxter 951 asks, how do you overcome the void in yourself after leaving a codependent relationship? First thing I want to do is challenge your need to overcome it. That's the same way as trying to get rid of a feeling. You were in a codependent relationship because you were avoiding a feeling. You may not have realized that at the time, but that's what was happening. There was an unresolved issue within you that was very painful, and you were trying to avoid that. And listen, it takes one to know one. I just got out of a codependent relationship a few months ago, and it was, looking back on it, I know exactly what I was trying to avoid. I was trying to avoid the pain of the loss that I was still feeling over the loss of my fiance who died 2.5 years ago. So I was still in pain over that, and I wanted somebody to fill that void within me that she left behind. And so I didn't want to feel the sadness and continue with the mourning. And so I made myself a target for a energy vampire. I don't want to encourage you to overcome the void. Just feel it. Feel it. There's no way around it. You just gotta sit through it. Just don't avoid it. It's helpful if you are self-diagnosing as a codependent. Then it's important for you to understand that you probably can't do it yourself. So I would go and get some help. I would look into Codependence Anonymous, and I would work the steps with a sponsor. I would look into getting counseling. Because if you don't heal that, and wanting to overcome it is a way of keeping it there. Denial, pushing it down, avoiding it. It stays there. It doesn't go away. All that's going to happen is you're setting yourself up for the next codependent relationship, because it's not like you're going to change. You see this all the time with, battered spouses. Men can be battered too, but, battered women. They'll be in a physically abusive relationship, and guess what? They'll find another one later. Why do I keep picking these kinds of men? Well, it's because you're trying to avoid the real issues underneath it. You need help. So you may need some outside help. Mara, if you have a question, write the word question, and I'll do my best to answer it. And look at you. Look at how impatient you are. Okay, so one of the things you're going to need if you want to learn from any other being is you're going to have to learn to be patient. I was talking. I wasn't ready to look at your question, and that's my right. I don't have to answer you when you say. I'll get to you when I get to you. So again, you're new to the channel, so you don't know how it works or how I am, and you need to write the word question so that I won't miss it. Mara4 says, if I wanted to astral project, what are some things not to do or things to look out for? I've watched your videos on how to do it and your steps. So what are you, so you've watched my videos, so apparently you've taken my instruction on what to do. What are some things not to do or things to look out for? Well, the first thing to do is to stop looking for things not to do and stop looking for things to look out for. I mean, do what works and don't do what doesn't work. So that mindset doesn't help you. What is important when it comes to shamanic journeys, and because I think I don't know that I would use the word astral project, because I think there's a lot of confusion around that. If you want to do a shamanic journey, then the first thing is you have to be very clear on what your intention is, what it is that you want. So when you're clear on what you want, you don't have to worry about what you have to look out for. Don't, you know, that's coming from a negative. Come from a positive. What is it that you want? And be very clear. And the stronger your desire and the stronger and the clearer your intention is, the more likely you will have success. Just like in anything else. Answer my question, please. What if I didn't answer your question? What if I didn't want it? All right. Scott Lewis Smith, question in all caps. People keep asking me this question, and I keep answering it, so I'll say it again. Jeffrey Doherty, he contacted me a while back and wanted to interview me, and then he didn't show up. He just didn't show. He gave me the time and the date, and he just didn't show up. And I tried contacting him and heard nothing back. And then recently, a few weeks ago, I contacted him again, saying, "Hey, I'm looking for people who want to interview me." And he set up an interview, and then he canceled that one, and then he set up another one and canceled that. And he did that 3 times, and then on the 4th one, I showed up, and like 10 minutes beforehand, he messaged me and said, "I'm just going to cancel the interview." So, to answer your question, the guy just, with me, has just been an utter and complete flake. You do it once, twice, but that guy, I don't know what his issue is. He's got stuff going on in his life. Stuff happens, so I don't know him. But as far as I'm concerned, all he's done is, flake on me. So that's it. I don't see any more questions here. So, do I need to go over things again? Okay, I'll share some more things about how to interpret. So, in my experience, when I have a question, because the other thing is to, as a teacher, so if you're looking at beings as teachers, I'm a teacher. This is how I work. This is why I only respond to questions most of the time, because you have to ask. A teacher may be sitting there with all of the knowledge in the world and may have what they think would be really amazing for you to learn, but you have to ask. So if there's something you want from the universe, you have to ask. You have to be willing to take the response is no. And you have to be willing to learn and get something that you didn't expect. So when I go for specific information in a shamanic journey, for example, in the vision state, I will ask a question. And it might be something visual that I see. It might be a sound. It might be a word or a phrase. But it's usually something that seems very cryptic. And afterwards, I may not even understand what it meant. And so what I found is that those answers are not meant to necessarily be understood in the moment in a superficial, two-dimensional way. For me, the more I meditate on them, the more the answer comes true. And in fact, an answer that you get, bear in mind, you're getting an answer from a space that isn't stuck in linear time. So the information that you're getting is in all times, which means that the answer may not fully hit you for another 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. It may not even be something that hits you in this lifetime. And so I am still understanding and interpreting visions and words and phrases that I got years and years ago. Like, I'm seeing, for example, what when I was 7 years old and I was sick with scarlet fever, and I was out of my body. I had left my body. I was like, my fever was going through the roof, and I might have been having a near-death experience or whatever, but I was like outside of I was like floating just above my body. And there was a being of light there that was in the room with me, and it was the light coming off of her. I could tell it was a woman. The light that was coming off of her face was so strong I couldn't see any details, but I could feel the love, and I could feel everything. And I got downloaded with information that at the time I didn't even acknowledge or comprehend. And one of the messages was, the first half of your life is going to be really hard. So just keep it up and just keep going. The second half of your life is going to be, everything's going to turn around for you the second half of life. That's absolutely true. My life took a huge shift right around 50 years of age. That's when everything started moving in a really good direction for me, and it's been getting better and better ever since. And now I'm living the life of my dreams. But that wasn't the case for, especially, as a kid. I had a really, really challenging childhood. So when you get a message, write it down, do something to remember it, and then even if it doesn't make any sense to you, just keep coming back to it. Because that message, bear in mind, they're not in linear time with you. They're in all time. So that answer may be something that's meant to really kick in 10 years or 20 years from now. And then you'll be able, so for me, looking back at many of the answers that I've gotten, I can see them. Even things, even omens. I recently had an omen that I didn't understand at the time. It was just before COVID-19 became a pandemic. And in Vedic astrology, viruses are represented by Rahu. Rahu is a snake. And a python. I live on a house, and there's like a steep driveway that goes down to the street, and there's the property line. And so I was looking out this window right here, and I saw there was a python. It was like 9 feet long or something, and he was slithering up my driveway. And I was like, whoa, holy crap, I gotta go stop that. I don't want that thing coming into my house. And as soon as I got down there, I saw that it was dead, and it had slithered past the property line. As soon as it got past the property line, it just died. Now, I don't know why. Who cares why? The symbolism is that's just too much. As soon as it got past my property line, it died. That's a big deal right there. At the time, I had all kinds of ideas what I thought it meant, which could have been true. But now I've come to realize that I was getting a message from, my guides. Hey, there's a virus coming, but you're going to be safe. It's not going to get to you. You'll be safe. And it could have meant other things as well. So that's the other thing about messages that you get from the other side. Messages from the other side are going to have holographic meanings, meaning it's not just going to be one thing. It's going to mean multiple things. That's why they only give you one word or one phrase or one vision. You're meant to meditate on that and see how that plays out in all of the different ways. All right, I see some more questions here. What else? Runashya Ishanayal, question. I started to have dreams of a feminine figures, one an obsessed lover, and another is three very protective feminine figure, which both I do not have in my waking life. Are this archetypes or unconscious desire to seek the feminine? I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you the three meanings of dreams. Generally speaking, dreams have three functions. The first one is your brain is constantly taking in, I mean, just trillions of tiny, pieces of information. And so it gets recorded. And when you sleep, your brain offloads it and gets rid of all of the information, which is, the majority of it, stuff that you don't need. That's why you don't remember everything that happened yesterday, or you don't remember everything that happened, 10 years ago, because it's not information that you need. So, you dream you're walking down the street or walking your dog. It's just, you happen to do that day and your brain's releasing that. You usually don't remember those dreams, but those happen all the time. Second function of a dream is you are having a spiritual experience. You traveling somewhere, astral traveling. I hate that word. It's just so, I just hate that phrase. It's just so cheesy. But you're traveling somewhere and or you're having an experience. You're talking with a dead relative, or you're talking to a god or a being or something like that. So that would be like a spiritual dream. Those are very rare. Those don't happen very often. And then the third one is a dream which is either your fantasy or your fears. So this is why it's really good to be able to remember your dreams and isolate them. I do this to the best of my knowledge every day. As I'm waking up, that half hour between fully asleep and fully awake as you're coming in and out, I will remember my dreams and I'll bring to my mind the faces of the people in my dreams, and I'll ask them, who are you? Who do you represent? Or I'll try and figure out, that represents this, that. And I do that so that I can learn about myself, because the more I know about my unconscious mind, the more power I have to be aware of, how I'm being influenced and, all that kind of stuff. It's one of the things I do to take more conscious control over my reality. So those are the three kinds of dreams. If you're having dreams of feminine women, an obsessed lover, and protective feminine figure, I can't tell just from that what it is, but ask them. All you have to do is just close your eyes and bring to your mind the face of the feminine figures and say, who are you? And listen to what they have to say. Oftentimes your mind will tell you. Your mind will tell you what it means if you ask. Average Joe, question. Has your interaction with Mahadeva changed anything regarding your spiritual system, such as simplifying it? So Average Joe, what the hell are you asking me? That's a really long way of asking me, do you want me to simplify my system for you? That's what I hear in that. And you're wanting to triangulate by using Mahadeva, because Mahadeva is my higher self. So you're wanting to kind of say, hey, I think Mahadeva wants you to simplify it, right? You're kind of doing it in the passive aggressive way there. Average Joe, the best way for me to help you is for you to, number one, Average Joe, have you ever had a session with me? You've been on my channel for a long time. And I don't know that I've ever had a private session with you. So if what you want is for me to simplify my system for you, I can sit down and tailor make a system for you, but you have to actually, talk with me. So to be honest, that question really isn't, I don't find any value in that question, because you're not being completely straight with me. I don't think. Okay? So try again. Dion Trujillo, question. Does Rahu play a similar role as the reptile who rules and lives in the underworld? Yes, he is that reptile. The underworld is your unconscious mind. And are you talking about the Naga that I share in my Naga series? Yeah, that Rahu would fill that role. Do they both control the frequency creating our lives? Um, you control the frequency creating your life, but they control you, and I could be just saying you're unconscious. Your unconscious mind controls you to the extent that you seek to operate from your fears and your greed, anything that comes from lack. Whenever you operate from that, you immediately, the thing about like boa constrictors, right? Boa constrictors, the way they work is they squeeze until you do something, you move your muscles in such a way where you give them more ability to keep squeezing. So they have the pressure on you. So what it is that we have to breathe. So in order to breathe, we have to exhale first. So it's ironic that your desire to breathe starts with exhaling, and when you exhale, they squeeze, which means you can't inhale. So lots of times they suffocate to death because they can't breathe, because they're being squeezed. The thing about I have a good friend of mine who's really high level jiu-jitsu practitioner. He goes all around the world. He's the 4th degree black belt in Gracie or Machado jiu-jitsu, one of those. And he goes around the world and he trains like people for the octagon and that kind of thing. He's extremely good. He's been doing it as long as I've known him, almost as long as I've known him, which is a long time. And I train in a completely different martial art, a martial art that uses pure energy and doesn't use muscle. And so what I learned from him is that he waits for his opponent to extend themselves in some way. And once they do, he capitalizes on it. So if we were wrestling around on the ground, I'm not I don't do jiu-jitsu, so I don't know anything about it. He would wait for me to try and do something, and then that extension or something he would say thank you, and then he would grab my arm or grab my leg or get me in a headlock or something like that. But when we were standing up and it was like real sparring, and I'm doing what I know how to do, he had nothing to grab onto. So there was nothing for him to grab onto because I would never overextend myself, and I would end up winning the sparring every time. And it was really frustrating for him, but it's because I didn't operate on a physical level, I was operating on an energetic level. And so the unconscious mind is the same way. It's like a boa constrictor, and it's waiting for you to operate from your fears or your selfishness, which both operate from the assumption that the universe gives you everything that you need. If you stop and you have to get something, if you become desperate, and this is what what thieves do. People who steal don't believe that they can get whatever they want, and so they think they have to take it from somebody else. They think they either have to work for it or steal it. They don't believe that it can be given to them just based on them being their authentic self. So another way of looking at it is anytime you extend yourself outside of your authentic true self, then the boa constrictor will squeeze, which means, in this answering your question, that they'll control the frequency creating your life. So I would get rid of the idea that something outside of you controls your frequency, because it doesn't. It only responds. The other thing is that you could be, there were times when, like I would say to this guy, I'd say, okay, get me in whatever hold you wanted. And I would be able to get out of the hold because I would be able to slip out without using any stress, any physical strength or muscular strength, because he has to have me resisting against him so he can use that resistance against me. If I don't resist him, then there's nothing for him to grab onto, and it's like he's trying to grab onto a puff of air. There's nothing for. And there was one time where he actually came at me and I didn't resist him at all, and he ended up behind me, and he goes, "How'd you do that?" I said, "I didn't do anything. That's the point." But if I had done anything to try and resist or evade, then he would have had something to get me into some kind of a lock. That's why, jiu-jitsu guys are so hard to fight. because most people, in fact 99% of the population, doesn't know, unless they've been trained, how to fight from an energy standpoint. Saturn's Guru question, is there a practice involving runes for dream workings? Are you asking me, do I have a practice, or do I know of a practice? I don't know. It sounds like a great practice, though. Go ahead and create it. Works for me. Average Joe is asking, you seem calmer. So is this coming back? So see, that's what I mean. Why didn't you ask that? I came at you and beat the crap out of you for no reason. Average Joe, stop thinking things so hard. I want to hear your emotions. You're having an emotional experience, an emotional reaction to me, because I seem calmer to you. So going back to your question now, what you're really asking me is, where's your question? What you're really asking me is, has my interaction with Mahadeva calmed me down? The answer is yes. Yes, it has. All right. I don't see any more questions. How long have we been on? For an hour? So you know the deal. If you don't have any questions, I got to sell you something, or I got to entertain you in some way. So while we're on the subject, we are still in lockdown in many places across the world. And so my contribution to that is the lockdown package, lockdown.thunderwizard.com. $3,214 worth of teachings, certifications, video courses, all kinds of stuff. Everything that I have control over that is a service or a product, I am giving away for free. The only thing that you're paying for is 4 services that you get from me, which involve anywhere from 2 to 4 hours of time with me on Skype, working through them. So that's really all you're paying for. Outside of that, you get $3,214 worth of courses and teachings, which I guarantee you will not get through before this whole. By the time you get through everything in that package, the COVID-19 will be, what was that? Oh yeah, I remember that. That happened a long time ago. Thunderwizard.com is the subscription site. It is the site where you can learn master shamanism. I don't even know how many hours of videos are on there. There's the manifestation mastery course, and then there is the divine union of masculine and feminine, which I'm just in the process of starting out. So you can subscribe to any one of those, and you get, again, I don't even know how many hundreds or thousands of hours of in-depth teaching that I don't do on this channel. And you can subscribe, and if you don't like it, unsubscribe. You haven't lost anything. Courses.thunderwizard.com. That's everything I have. All my books, all my videos, all my services. Please don't email me asking me how much this costs or where do I get that. It's at this link right here. Everything is at that link. And of course, subscribe and hit the bell button. All right. Was there any questions? Average Joe says, I didn't want to sound insulting. Yeah, that is a danger. I do tend to get insulted and offended. So I feel for you. All right, still no more questions. So then we need to hear from a guest speaker. Let's see. Who haven't we heard from in a while? Let's see, I got to go back up here now. Who haven't we heard from in a while? I have so much stuff on here. Hard for me to find. Let's see, what is this?
Hey, this is Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm the Shamanator. Today we're gonna talk about Twin Flame. Come on, watch it. Don't be a girly man. Okay, so today we're gonna talk about Twin Flame. What is a Twin Flame? Well, Twin Flame is when a soul is born into the universe, and it's very powerful. And what ends up happening is that because it is such a powerful soul, it splits into two. One is the divine masculine and the other is the divine feminine. And what ends up happening is that these two have souls. They're very powerful, very spiritual. They come down and they become incarnated into the world of humans when they go around and they're like saying to themselves, hey, what's going on here? I'm only half a person. I am very powerful, very spiritual, but I can feel the other half of me is somewhere around here. And I'm saying, hey, other half, where are you? Come on over here. We gotta get some spiritual work done together. So lots of times what's happening is that you're spending much of your life seeking to bring reunion for yourself and your twin flame. Now, there's something that you need to understand about twin flame is that there are these kinds of twin flames that are called girly men. So what happens is if you are, let's say you are divine feminine in essence and you are born as a woman, then you are a girly girl. And if you are born like me, you are divine masculine in a very masculine body, then you are just 100% masculine and I am a manly man, right? I am the shaman. But then there's this other whole group of people that are called girly men. And here's what happens when to become a girly man. Let's say you are divine feminine, but you are born in a masculine body. That makes you a girly man, right? What happens if you are divine masculine, but you are born in a woman's body? That also makes you a girly man. Now there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I'm always saying nowadays, it's good to be a girly man, except in the beginning of the video, I say, don't be a girly man. But I'm just doing that to joke. Come on, laugh at me. So, what are you gonna do with your twin flame? And you need to reunite. Well, first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna become very spiritual. You're gonna start meditating and you're gonna get lots of peace and serenity. Like me, I'm full of peace and serenity right now. What's wrong with you? Why can't you see that? And you're gonna do all kinds of spiritual things so that you can become totally woke, man. You're gonna become woke to your spiritual essence. You're gonna feel your spirit is pumped. That's what it is to be the shamanator. That's me. I'm pumped all the time. I am pumped in the spirit all the time. So I'm gonna tell you what you gotta do if you want to get reunited with your other half. You're going to walk up to that person because when you see them, you're going to know, you're going to feel it. Oh, my God in Himmel, look at you. I can feel that you are my other half. And they're going to say, what are you talking about? Why are you climbing inside my space like this? You're going to say, hey, shut up you. You're my other half. Stop screwing around. What's wrong with you? Reunite with me. And they're going to say, yeah, I see that now. You are my other half. Thank you for being so forceful about it and telling me about it. Thank you for stalking me on social media like the Facebook and on the Twitter and the Instagram. And thank you for calling me at all hours of the night. Now I am seeing the truth. I am woke now. And I am truly awoken to my spiritual self. And I'm going to reunite with you right here on the street in front of everybody. Screw them. I don't care if they like it because we are twin flame. Now, that's what you're going to do. But I got to tell you something. If you really want to understand this twin flame thing, understand the union of divine masculine and feminine, I'm going to tell you exactly what you're going to do. And you're going to hear me now, and you're going to do it now. That is, you're going to go to thunderwizard.com. When you go there, you're going to scroll down on the right side of the page and you're going to see divine union of masculine and feminine. And you're going to subscribe. Why? Because I'm telling you to do so. I'm the shamanator. Don't argue with me. It's bad for your spiritual growth. And then you are saying to yourself, when am I going to have the reunion of my twin flame? Or you're going to say, hey, shamanator, I found my twin flame, but I want to know, is he really my twin flame or not? So you're going to go to loveastrology.thunderwizard.com and I'm telling you, you're going to get a love reading from that guy. Because that guy, he's the true shamanator, that Thunder Wizard guy. He taught me everything. In fact, I completely mold myself after him. He taught me how to work out. He taught me how to meditate and be spiritually calm. He told me how to point out flaws in other people. You gotta see this guy. He's really something. So you're gonna go to his thunderwizard.com YouTube channel and you're gonna subscribe there too. And you're gonna get onto the live question and answer. And he's going to say, what's wrong with you? How come you're asking such a stupid question? And then he's gonna tell you the truth about your soul. It's gonna be amazing. I'm telling you, this guy, Thunder Wizard, you gotta follow him. So that's it for me today, talking about the twin flame. And I feel so much better and I feel so much calm and I feel love flowing through me. And you feel my love too, or I'm gonna smash you like a bug. Alright, that's it for me, the Shamanera. I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger. And next time, we're gonna talk about how you want to walk up to a woman and you're gonna make her your own. Yeah, that's what we're gonna talk about next time. Alright, that's it for me. See you later.
All right. So that was fun. I haven't seen that for a while. I think I did see a question here. Dean Nevins asks, did you discover the Hool breath when you were almost disabled? Yes. What was happening? This was right around the time I was getting all of these downloads and everything from the universe. I was still married. And what had happened is I had gotten to the end of my training with my Taoist teacher, and I had made the celestial qigong practice, and so he got upset about that, and he kicked me out of the sect and disappeared on me. And so I was trying other things because I wanted to take my practice to the next level, and I was doing other disciplines and things like that weren't a good mix, and I had this really bad energy headache all the time. And so in meditation, I just simply asked, please give me a one-syllable seed sound meditation in order to heal myself. And as soon as I did, just very subtly, I got the Hool breath, sound, and a visualization, which I teach, and the technique of how to chant it silently, and I had immediate relief. My energy was balanced immediately. So to answer your question, yeah, it had a lot to do with healing myself. I had to still do a lot more. That didn't get rid of it got rid of the energy problems, it got rid of the headaches and the other things that I was having. It didn't get rid of the muscle spasms and the tendonitis that I had, which was really bad. What got rid of that was me doing what I loved doing and committing to just following my joy. That was how my marriage fell apart. Was that I didn't do anything. I just committed to myself that I was going to do all the things that I wanted to do, that I was too young to be in so much pain and too young to be feeling old, and that I was going to do everything that I wanted to do, and just that changed the vibration to such a degree that my now ex-wife completely sabotaged the marriage. I had no choice but to leave. I would still be there if she had been even the slightest bit willing to meet me part way. She wasn't even, she just became so, unreasonable. I had no choice but to leave. And then the rest of the healing came. But yeah, throughout that whole time I was doing the Hool breath, and I continued to do that, and it did continue to have a very healing effect on me. So thank you for your question. And we did a live Hool breath meditation, and not a whole lot of people showed up, but I will keep doing that. I'll let you guys know about that. I have to think about that some more. Anyway, so that's it for me, guys. I don't have a whole lot more to say. I'll do some very quick recap. So in order to communicate with beings, higher beings of a higher vibrational level that you want to learn from, first thing that you need to do, I can't remember what the order I originally gave it in, but here's a recap somewhere in the same vicinity. You have to be willing to understand that they don't operate in three-dimensional communication. So you have to be willing to have them communicate to you in ways that are different than what you're used to. You also have to be willing to learn. Going to them and trying to demand them to respond to you in a certain way, they're not going to respond to that. Their only motivation is to help you evolve and to help you grow. And they know why you're here and what it is that you want to experience and learn and achieve. And bear in mind that if you don't want that, you can choose to focus on other things, and their response will be to just leave you alone and let you do what you want to do. They respond best to questions, and they respond best to attitudes of willingness and respect. So if you come to them with an attitude of, what do you want from me now, they can do something with that. And this is, again, the same way that a true traditional teacher is going to demand from you. That is what the gods are going to want from you. And people who stay stuck are people who they can't handle that. Some people can't. It's basically something I can expect from almost every apprentice. Is at some point they're going to want to fight with me and have a control battle over whether or not they should follow my directions or not. And I end up saying, look, if you don't think I have anything of value to teach you, then yeah, you're free to go wherever you want. But if you want what I have, then I'm going to teach you what I think you need to do and what I did. And if you don't want to do those things, you're perfectly happy to do that, but I'm going to move on and work with somebody who wants what I have. So they're the same way. This is why working with a teacher is good, even if you end up leaving that teacher later on, because it gives you an ability to know how to interact with beings higher than yourself. And all of this ends up resulting in you having a better life, which again is really what I'm most interested in, is helping you to have a better life. Anyway, so that's it for me, guys. Coming up soon, I don't know how much longer, let me take a look and see. I'm downloading this. Has it been? Okay, so very soon, probably in the next hour or two, I'm going to stream, I think, like 8 hours. 8 hours, and that's just scratching the surface. 8 hours of understanding how the Abrahamic religions are the most destructive cult that has ever been invented by human beings. Talking about the big three. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. I don't talk about Islam because I'm not a Muslim and I don't have enough expertise in it, and I'm not interested in bashing other cultures and religions. And I do talk about the origins of Christianity within Judaism, and where Judaism is actually came from out of nowhere. That actually the I think it was I don't know if it was 300 BC, or I forget the exact date, but the date of the Babylonian captivity is when the Judean people, now they had already split off from the Samaritans, and they were their own, the Jews, they were their own cultural and political entity. They were polytheists. They were not monotheists. And it wasn't until after the Babylonian captivity, when the elites and the priests who came back from Babylon after being held in captivity, they came back with this new scripture, which we call the Torah, the Old Testament. It wasn't until they came back with that they introduced this brand new religion of monotheism, as we understand it. And then, of course, the Christians, the Romans took that and perfected it, turned it into modern-day Christianity. And then later, Muhammad, people don't realize it, but Muhammad wanted to be part of the club. Muhammad really wanted to be part of the Christian, Judeo-Christian club. He really wanted that. And when they rejected him, because he came and said, hey, I had a revelation from Jehovah, from Allah. It was the same thing. It's the same being. He says, I had a revelation from Allah. I want to be part of your guys' thing, because he also loved Jesus. He had like, a picture of Mary and Jesus, and he worshipped them. But when he went to the Christians and said, I want to be part of your club, they said, no, you can't be part of our club. You can't come in with your own revelation. And then he got kicked out of that club. And he went to the Jews and said, hey, we're brothers, and Allah and Abraham, and we're all, and the Jews said, no, you're not. Get the hell out of here. He got his feelings hurt. And he got his feelings hurt so bad that he created what we know now as jihad. That's where jihad came from. So the point is that it starts with this monotheist Abrahamic tradition, which is the most toxic, destructive belief system that has influenced the world in the history of human race. And so today I'm going to be uploading previous Q&As. I think, like I said, 6 or 8 hours worth of stuff. And if you ever wanted to know how this religion has influenced your mind and your thinking, and why it's so incredibly destructive, and why the whole world, if they are part of this monotheist triad, are in a huge cult, why that is and how to get out of it, stay tuned later today. All right, that's it for me, guys. I will see you guys soon. And I hope everybody's doing well. And just stay patient. Don't do stupid stuff. And soon enough we'll be out of this pandemic thing. All right. Talk to you guys later.